Let's take a look and a proper review on the Beretta 87 target. This is a gun that I have some history with. Way back before I could acquire my own handgun, I remember seeing this in the store and I couldn't buy it. And since then I've always wanted one, and since acquiring this one I decided of all the guns, this is the one I will never get rid of. This is a quality gun. This is all steel handgun made by Beretta. It's the 87 target. The entire gun made out of steel. We have a very accurate barrel, fairly long barrel, and on top here we have a fairly long sight radius that helps us to do accurate shots with this gun. It has some downsides, but let's cover the pros first. The way this gun is built, we can see that it has a very nice weight distribution. We have something in front of here. It's a barrel weight. You need to remove this to take the gun apart and to clean it, but it also serves a function that gives it a little bit more weight in the front. So shooting this accurately and fast is quite easy. We can see there is not a lot that happens in the rear. The grips are fairly small. They are not heavy at all. Pretty hollow, does not contribute much to the weight of the gun. And when firing this gun, there is not a lot of recoil to be found. Let's fire a few shots and see how it goes. We noticed that this gun now didn't lock to the rear on the last round fired. It's because I tend to have a fairly hard grip on top here, so I unintentionally block the slide release so it doesn't lock on the rear to the rear on the last round fired necessarily every time. Now, as I mentioned, there are some downsides to this gun in particular. We can see the front sights, they are black, completely black. I tend to put a small marker using a pen, put a small white marker, a small dot in front here too, so that I have something really small to aim by. The rear of the gun, the rear sight, is also completely black. A tip there would be to mark the edges of the rear sight in white or something like that to properly see, to be able to align the front sight and the rear sight when shooting. I usually don't fire that fast, so a small white dot is enough for me. Other than that, I know that you can get some optical sights. You can replace the front sight. You can replace it with a wider, a broader, or a narrower front sight, but you can also get optical front sights, so that you will have a front sight that this is a different gun, but you can imagine having this kind of optical sight on the Beretta. It will help a lot, especially in the cases where you are firing the gun faster. I think that this is a really good beginner gun for most everybody. One slight issue that I have with this gun is the break of the trigger. It is not a super light trigger. I believe other guns, such as the Hammerly XS series, have a better trigger. You also have other guns, such as the KMR SO2. We will cover that gun in a different video, but this gun also has what I think is a much lighter trigger, and for some people that can be beneficial, because when you are trying to aim this gun and to take controlled shots, the somewhat heavy trigger can contribute to broader groupings. Now you can see that I have added a small cushion here, a small cushion here. What this cushion does is it prevents the trigger from being pulled excessively to the rear. Now we can see when the gun is not loaded, we can see that when I pull the trigger here, we can see that the trigger breaks and it should initially stop there. A new shooter, or anyone for that matter, would probably pull the trigger fully to the rear. This cushion is to help not over pulling the trigger, because pulling the trigger from here to here just after the break of the shot would tend to move the gun around, and you will not be able to shoot very small groups. That is probably my biggest negative for this gun. It's a hard gun for new shooters to shoot accurately. So do yourself a favor and put something to the rear here. If you choose, you can put a hole in the trigger and put a screw in the trigger, but this does not change the gun that much. This is a neoprene pad that has some cushioning to it. As you can see, the recoil on this gun when firing is very minimal. It's very easy to hold the gun steady for the duration of the shot and from one shot to the other. One thing I forgot to mention is the top rail here, where you can add optics, stuff like that. I haven't chosen to mount anything on my gun, but I know that you can fit an optic scope, something like that. We can also see that we have a safety on both sides, and there's also nothing that prevents this gun to be equally shot by a left or a right-handed person, except for the slide release, which is only on the left side. You can easily manipulate the slide using the hands though. Even if the serrations here are only on the front, it's very easy to manipulate the gun. You can also grip with the thumbs at the rear here for loading the gun. One thing that has impressed me with this gun is the durability and the materials used. I've never had any issues, and I can without a doubt say that this gun has given me the least amount of malfunctions, the least amount of failures to fire of any kind that I have, of all the guns that I have shot. There has actually been no failures that I could not blame on the ammunition. This has been really flawless. There's only one part, and we will look at it when we take the gun apart, the recoil spring, that you can expect will have to replace after some years. I don't know how many rounds this gun has fired, probably 20,000, perhaps even more. And I have not had a need to replace the trigger or the recoil spring on this gun over that duration of time, and I don't believe I will have to replace it anytime soon either. That was the review on the Beretta 87 Target. Very nice Italian handgun. I believe it is on par with several other guns, such as the KMR that comes in at twice the price. Obviously, the KMR has some features that you will not find on this gun. It is probably, even though it is twice the price, there are many reasons to choose the KMR over the Beretta 87. At least in my country, this Beretta costs roughly $800, and the KMR somewhere around $1,500–$1,600. Another alternative to the Beretta 87 Target would be the Hammerly XS. You also have the Browning Buckmark, you have the Ruger Mark series that are direct competitors, I believe. Outstanding gun. 2 thumbs up. The magazine on this gun, it comes with 2 magazines in the bag, in the box. The magazines are all steel. You can see that they have a rubber base plate that can be easily taken apart. You use the same tool as you use for the front weight of the gun when disassembling it, that you have beneath the weight here. You should probably take this magazine apart every 1,000–2,000 rounds, I believe, because they will become really slow in the mechanism here. It tends to build up gunk, stuff like that, so it becomes really, really slow. It will probably not cause any malfunctions because it hasn't on mine, but it will tend to gunk up. When loading the magazine, I can at least use the screw here to manipulate the follower. So when we load it up, you need to insert the first round. Then you can put the nail on the screw and load it more easily. We can see now that the first target, where I took my time, the first few shots were actually quite decent. I got in a hurry there and started pulling my shots down and to the left. The other target, where I was shooting fast all the time, quite decent there too. The smaller targets, where I was kind of moving from target to target, is also quite decent. So I believe the balance of the gun contributes to being able to have fast follow-up shots